Welcome to TARTLEcast with your hosts Alexander McKegg and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path.
Jason, you were just telling me something really interesting.
Yes, let's get into Proposition 24.
No, before that.
Alex Jones and Joe Rogan.
So
how does California, Proposition 24, Alex Jones, conspiracy theories, and Joe Rogan work?
How does it all come together? So this, I just want to talk about the transition of this. We have like those Pelican cases over here for our sound equipment.
Yes.
And I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's interesting. It's got 2 Berettas and a Glock.
The picture shows it.
The picture shows it. We don't have that in here. And so I'm like, that's interesting. And you're like a weapons case. And it's like for the sound thing. It's like, oh, it's like a sound weapon. I'm like, we have a sound weapon, you know?
And then you're like, that's very Alex Jones.
I'm like, that's very Alex Jones. And that's when you got into this little story, which I think is interesting. And I wanted you to talk about it.
Yeah. So, of course, we all know that Joe Rogan, being the godfather of podcasting.
Yeah, phenomenal.
He gets hundreds of millions of views every episode.
Good for him.
He turned around and signed a contract with Spotify. Mm-hmm. And so Spotify said, yes, we're going to take all your old episodes, everything, and we're going to put it into our system. But here's what we're going to do. We're not going to be like YouTube, which is owned by Google. And we're not going to, if you want to have a controversial guest on like Alex Jones, or you want to talk about, whatever type of, socially cultural issue that's out right now.
You can talk about what you want.
Yeah. Spotify said you can talk about what you want.
With whoever.
Yeah. With whoever. And you can bring your guests on and we'll put it in there. So here's what happened. So they make this agreement. All the episodes are supposed to be on Spotify, right?
Yeah.
With the most controversial ones, including he's had several times had Alex Jones on, they were mysteriously said they were having problems getting him onto the system.
Dude, come on. Listen, I'm not a fan of Alex Jones, right?
Right.
I don't listen to his stuff, but just cut to the chase.
Well, I'm a fan of freedom of speech.
I love freedom of speech.
And here's my view on this, and I want to get into this, Alex, real quick, because I think this is awesome. And I don't think a lot of people think of it this way. If you get somebody nowadays that's crazy, and they start spouting out all this craziness, with social media and the things that are going on right now, and it gets out there in millions of different types of ways, it exposes them and shows who they are.
Of course, yeah.
It will show them. And everybody's so worried about censoring or canceling people, with everything that's going on, but we don't recognize the importance and why it's the First Amendment.
No, and it's cool because when someone shows their true colors.
Right.
So that's a term that went back towards I
see your true colors.
That's an original term from the OG Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not talking about the Disney movies. Right. What happened was, pirates would fly a false flag. Alex Jones probably loves the term false flag, right? Yeah. So they would fly a false flag, and when they would get close to the ship, they would then throw up the Jolly Roger, which is then their true colors. So at that point, you show your true colors.
Yes.
That's where that term comes from. But freedom of speech affords people the opportunity to express who they are and how they think. And censoring like that only hinders the evolution.
Right.
And if someone's saying something derogatory and out of control, well, let them do that. That's them. If they want to look crazy, by all means, but there's no reason to censor something like that.
No, and so
unless it's physically harming someone,
right?
Or like it's actually hindering human life,
right?
Then that's something we need to look at because we want to protect human life.
But an idiot, it's going to shine through, regardless. And I'm not saying Alex Jones is an idiot. I don't condone what he's. He has crazy conspiracy. He's entertaining to listen to, and I look at it kind of as entertainment. It's fun for me.
I love a good conspiracy.
Yes, I do too. We even did a show on him.
Oh yeah.
But what I thought was funny was what Joe Rogan did. So this was all going on, and then there was released because we use Asana.
Yes.
So there was released with Spotify employees going nuts on Asana, back and forth, threatening all kinds of different things with the C-suite. Over all this.
Oh, you mean Slack?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Slack.
yeah. Asanas are okay. If everybody wants to know how TARTLE manages our tasks, is the Asana task management system. Yes, it is a company that was founded by someone who did work at Facebook.
Right.
But I do like good task management.
Yes.
And they have an excellent system. It competes with Monday.com.
Yes. Yeah.
But our communication, because our team is remote,
right?
We are very decentralized. we use Slack.
And Spotify encouraged, the high ups at Spotify encouraged them, which I think is awesome. They should encourage the employees to talk about different episodes, because he did one that was kind of controversial, with expressing whether you're female or male or, all the gender neutral and all that stuff.
Sure.
So he had a scientist on there that talked about, some of the dangers of that, from London, area, and came on. And so there was a big uprising with that. But what I thought was funny, all this was going on, Spotify's, going crazy and all that. So Joe Rogan decides to just bring Alex Jones back on, talk about COVID. But it was, what I thought was interesting is him and Jamie would stop him. It's an interesting episode, and then fact check him.
Oh, they would fact check Alex Jones.
And Joe Rogan said,
was he 80% right?
He was 90% right. Joe Rogan said he was 90% right.
I'll give it to him. That's pretty good.
So, and then one of the things I thought was really cool was, Joe Rogan was talking about, Alex Jones was talking about the island and Epstein and all that. He's like, he literally told me this stuff 10 years ago. So, the voice, I know it can be horrific. It can sound crazy, but you need that fringe. On all sides. Yeah. You need the artist, the creative. You need that person that's inseminating all this information and putting puzzle pieces together.
You need it something against the grain sometimes.
Yes, you need that.
Because, you need sometimes a little bit of a crazy perspective.
Yes.
When people, when we were starting this company, people were like, that's insane.
Yes.
This will never happen. That's crazy. Well, that's crazy to think like that. Look at me now.
Yes.
Exactly. I'm not just saying that to prove a point, but it's just like, I was against the grain.
Yes.
And it wasn't heard, and now it's being heard.
Right.
We're adopted in over 58 countries. It's not that insane.
That's how this world was built. That's how we evolve.
Yeah.
And we look 200 years ago and look at humanity and see how primitive they are. And I guarantee you 200 years from now, they're going to look back at us.
Yeah. Look how primitive they are.
Yes.
Their way of thought. And the interesting, thing is, you don't do it, or at least I don't do it because it's perceived as crazy.
Right.
Or it's a high risk. I do it because I truly feel at my core, it's the right thing to do. And I'm so passionate about that right thing that it can come off as crazy. It comes off as like that high energy.
Right.
But I need to have that energy there to support the people and the systems to listen, to actually manage all these things. You can't just go in it lackluster and lazy.
But history will judge truth.
It does.
It always comes out. It shines a light.
It's not history judging it. It's time.
Yes, time. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yes.
Because no matter what, truth is always there. It's unchangeable. And time will always clear through all the BS.
But I love this process of like how we do with podcasting, this long form conversations, and however controversial Joe Rogan is or Alex Jones or anything, for people to be able to, it used to be that way, like the political debates that we saw, in these 10, 15 minute things, and then putting a timer on situations. Like literally, you have 5 minutes to speak about foreign policy.
How
the hell?
How do we do anything educational, constructive, or clear in 15 minutes?
Yes.
Then it just becomes a combative punch for punch.
But do you remember like when I remember seeing like Abraham Lincoln and all these others, and they would literally spend days giving speeches and having conversations.
Ancient Greece.
Yes.
You'd have guys walking around in their white robes just debating for a long time. It was a slow democratic process.
Yes.
And there was a reason for that.
Yes, there's a reason. And we've just shortened everything to little sound bites. And then if we don't like the sound bite, whether it's taken out of context or not, then we just cancel that. Yeah. That person says, bleep, they're gone.
Yeah. Censor it.
Yeah. And I beg to differ, because I think there's an opportunity for humanity to practice forgiveness.
Yeah.
In anything that we do.
I agree. And, when you censor, you take away the control of the person that created the content.
Yes.
So let's talk then about
Proposition 24.
Proposition 24.
This is California's approving a more data privacy rule. So so far it's leading 56% of the vote. But I'm pretty sure it passed. I'll look it up while you're talking here in a second just to make sure.
You need to jamify that.
Yes. Proposition 24 would update a 2018 law that gave Californians the right to know what information companies collect about them online, the right to get that data deleted, and the right to opt out of the sale of their personal information.
So let's think about this. When the tech bubble was really kicking off, it was very easy to black box a lot of these things. People were so starstruck.
Right.
With all these cool new technologies, all this communication. no one ever really thought about the secondary effects. Well, where's this information going? What's being collected? And is the government even looking at it? Even that Edward Snowden film it came out a couple of years ago was phenomenal.
Right.
Talked about X key score.
Yes.
It indexed everything on the internet that was stored. And then you could just search between whatever you wanted to look for and to pull up those people, right? And you can look through the webcams, their equipment, whatever it might be. They're probably still doing it. Why would they stop? But the point is that only now have we begun to realize that we were the creators of that content. And luckily, Californians were pushing to pass this thing that it's like we recognized our mistake and now we're trying to clean up the mess. Now we're starting to see, kind of the risk of us just giving our information out all over the place, ad hoc. And now we kind of want to take control, bring the reins back in. And this is sort of a social change that is happening. And they are asking for help because, a large majority of those Silicon Valley firms hold a good body of that data, whether it's servers here or servers in Ireland, whatever it might be. It's like, how do I see what they did collect on me? Because I didn't know. And the terms and conditions were way too long, way too just ridiculous to read, frankly. Okay, they're just too confusing for any normal person to go and look at. So it's like I want to go back and see what was collected, and I kind of do I want to rein it in? Do I want them to delete it? Am I okay with them having it? It's really not a function of managing the data, but rather giving people a choice over what they didn't realize they had a choice over doing before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The part that I worry about this, because I understand that, but this always gets me, and maybe I'm wrong, and you can speak to is that they want to create a dedicated state agency to enforce the law with an annual budget of $10 million. How do you speak when I like the idea, but wouldn't it be simpler to allow, because I'm trying to speak on this, in a way, wouldn't it be simpler to allow the consumer to opt out a lot easier to simplify the process in that? Instead of creating a state agency?
I'll tell you how easy this is. We develop and write code constantly. To put a checkbox for opt out or delete my data would take us maybe under 5 hours.
Yeah, because you get the cookies thing now.
Yeah.
Do you want to accept, allow?
Yeah, but now the question is, can I pull stuff off the servers? It doesn't take long to do that.
Right.
All you need to know is the account associated with it, and we just run the script. It's not difficult to do. But $10 million to have an agency put in place to enforce something that is otherwise should just be a normal human right,
yes,
seems kind of absurd.
Yeah, no, that's what I was looking at. You don't
have to force or armbar Silicon Valley companies, or big tech firms, to be humanitarian and have higher ethics. Those should just be there naturally.
Well, I think Snowden showed it.
Yeah, Snowden showed it.
And why would we give the power to the government when they're the worst? I know Google and Facebook want some info so they can market to you, but the government actually wants to.
Why allocate another $10 million to some other government agency?
Yes, that's where I was.
It's frankly requires there's no use in doing something like that. It's a matter of the people being on the systems, making a choice. People, you vote with your dollar.
Right.
Vote with your data. Join TARTLE.
Yes, exactly.
No, but in all seriousness, vote with your data. Stop giving it to them.
Yes.
Just write their contact sport. No, we're not doing it like that. There's no reason for Andrew Yang to come in and run a $10 million agency, right?
Yeah.
And have him have full reign and then start pressuring tech companies, right? We're trying to do stuff.
Well, he wants it to be a model and go into all states.
That's not.
So now we're going to start.
That's not a model.
Now we're going to start state agencies. How soon will it be before we have a federal agency?
Well, that's not a model. That is, government control over private industry.
I like what the Electronic Frontier Foundation. I don't know anything about them, but
what are you talking about? We actually we're major donors to them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
We donate to EFF all the time. That beanie I wear? This is F?
Yes.
Courtesy of them. Thank you. Shout out to EFF.
Electronic Frontier Foundation has decided to say neutral, calling the measure, this is what they said, a mixed bag of partial steps backwards and forwards.
Yeah, it doesn't.
A mixed bag, yeah.
It doesn't really make much sense. It's kind of it's kind of like a burnt out. It's like he's a burnout.
Right.
He's a burnout.
Yeah, it's like
I'm trying to figure out how to say nicely.
No, it's like Steven Seagal doing his movies now.
Yeah.
He's kind of like bigger. He can't really kick that high. You know, he's like doing the law enforcement stuff, and it's kind of staged, and he's like, let me show you how to shoot, son.
Yeah. Listen, the end game intention makes sense.
Right.
But the actions to get there and setting up, these government agencies that are naturally going to be inefficient doesn't make sense.
The idea is great.
The idea is great
because we have a problem.
That's not the proper
way to fix it. Yeah.
And if you want to fix it, join TARTLE.
Yes.
Take control of your data.
Yeah, you don't need a proposition.
Yeah, we don't need a proposition. We don't need to champion the government to work for us. Work for yourself. It's your information.
Yes.
You tell them what you want to do with it.
Let the power go back to
the people. That's exactly right.
Awesome. I love it.
Cool deal. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to TARTLEcast with your hosts Alexander McKegg and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path. What's your data worth?
Okay, and then let me know.